Okay, let's get started with play. I've dealt out the 6-card hands to each player now. There's only 4 seasons in each year, and you get 6 new cards each year. So, yes, there are some battle events that you're going to play as reactions, but for the most part, you do end up slowly collecting up cards. At the beginning of play, you don't have very many, and that means things kind of start at a slower level. Of course, you can trigger off one of these. I wanted to highlight this card, which I looked at the Tripolitanian cards, the Guns of Tripoli. Now, last game, I played this early in the game when there was an attack on the port. Maybe it was valuable, maybe it wasn't. The Tripolitanians almost won the game, not on this card. But there are cards which make this more valuable, if I recall correctly. And that's the kind of thing that you want to remember, is that you have potential synergies between cards where you do kind of want to know the deck. Actually, was that the one? No, I'm sorry. The Philadelphia runs aground, not the Guns of Tripoli. The Philadelphia runs aground card. So this one has a card which modifies the die roll on it. And there's a couple of cards here, one for the US, one for the, well, maybe 2 for the US, one for the Tripoli player, that have sort of a chart on them. There are modification cards for those, that if you play 2 battle events essentially at the same time, you can cause something. This is a particular one where the Americans have to have a frigate in the naval patrol zone. If you roll a 5 or a 6, you get a bonus frigate out of this, which is sort of the historical situation. The counter to that is trying to burn it, which is kind of cool. Let's take a look at what the US has. Constantinople demands tribute. This is a useful card. It takes back a couple of your gold. That's really helpful. General Eaton attacks Dern. Totally useless now until I get the army. So this is just I can discard this at will. Congress authorizes action. Place 2 American frigates on the following year of the turn track. I definitely want to play this during this period. The Daring Stephen Decatur. Okay, so this is the modifier card for the Americans, which allows them to get a bonus on 2 dice instead of 1 on one of those charts. Lieutenants, I got a lot of special cards here. When making an interception, the frigates get 3 dice instead of 2. That's very helpful. And Hammett recruits Bedouins, totally useless until I get Hammett's army. So I got kind of a shitty card draw here. So I'm going to open things up by throwing this down and dropping 2 Swedish frigates there. This card is now out of play. Throw it back in the box. It's gone for the rest of the game. That's the US side of things. For Tripoli, well, so there are a couple of choices, but the thing I want to do first is probably the Murad Reis, because the Americans didn't blockade Gibraltar. This only affects American frigates. Another option would be to bring Tripoli some extra Corsairs. I don't want to do that yet. So I'm going to take the Murad Reis, breaks out. This is again a first one. I take the 2 Tripolitanian Corsairs. They cannot be intercepted because there's nothing there, and they make it here. And we go to the summer. The early part of the game centers around these coins. Can the Tripolitanians capture a fair number of them and bring that up so that they have a good chance of winning the game that way? Or can the Americans prevent those? So let's take another quick look. We had none of these were any use, I don't think. Congress authorizes action. I'd like to play that, but I don't want to play that right away. I am more interested in discarding a card. I'll discard this Hammett recruits the Bedouins. I'm gonna... Now, I was a lot more careful sorting through my cards when I was playing the first time doing it on the camera, that may not be the best choice. So for example, the attack stern might be a better one to throw. I'll throw that instead, since I did identify that. The difference between the two is pretty minor. I'm probably going to be getting rid of both of them before I run through my deck. I'm going to discard that in order to move 2 frigates. I'll put 2 more frigates in Tripoli. That gives me a fair chance of intercepting most of their ships. Over on their side. These are not useful until I have the ships. This could damage American ships. This could damage American ships. This is something to defend Tripoli. I am going to acquire a couple more Corsairs. And again, this is an event. Play only once. So it is removed from my deck. Now, other than losing that event, there's no deck management here, right? That event gets used once, but I'm not like giving up some kind of ops points card that's particularly good to get rid of that. And I kind of like that. I don't like games where you're trying to stack the deck with certain numbers of ops points as kind of part of the play balance thing. Yeah, it may just be, you know, I don't know. It just feels weird to me. Here, yep, that's my one chance to do that. That's great. Okay, here we are in the fall. I'm beginning to run out of interesting things to do. I don't really want to sail in with 2 frigates against Tripoli, ignoring the fact that they have the defenses there. Most of my other stuff doesn't do much. I want to hold this till my last card, or do I want to play it right now? I'll play it right now because I can't think of anything better. So my remaining 2 frigates go in here. I'm going to have a more powerful force early than historically was the case. And we go back to Tripoli. So this could sink a frigate on a 6. I'm not getting a lot of rolls on it. I don't really want to get rid of either of these. I'll throw the Tunisian card. I'm not thrilled with doing that, but I will discard that in order to send a raid out. Now we have an interception. And I got no battle cards for interception. He has a couple of cards. The Daring of Stephen Decatur affects the Philadelphia card. This one, I could roll 3 dice instead of 2 for each frigate, but I don't have a lot of frigates out there. Do I want to play this? It's a one use in the game card. It's a powerful card, but it only affects the American frigates. I'll hold it. I'm a little iffy about that, but I'll hold it. Okay, so these are coming out. There's going to be 2 American frigates trying to intercept and 2 Swedish frigates, and I'll use both colored dice for that. Let me make sure I got that right, that interception is indeed 2 dice each. I believe it is. Yep. And we're looking for 6s. We got no hits. At this point, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gunboats, which is exactly the number of red dice I have, so I can choose to use them. And we're looking for 5s and 6s. We didn't have anything that would help us here, and we got a grand total of 1 hit. That'll get us a coin, and then we go home. And that pushes us to the winter turn. We don't want to play this yet. Play Hammett recruits the Bedouins, and I will build a gunboat. Over here, I'll play this one to bring my raiders out again, and we do the same thing. 4 dice, 8 dice. I like to get those Swedes out of there, but I don't have the card to do that yet. Ooh, not good for the Corsairs. So that's going to be 2 hits on the Corsairs. And that means there's only 6 of them. But they score big. They get 3 coins. That's the end of the year. So we've gotten ourselves 4 coins at some cost. And we will go back to the sequence of play. We're at the start of year 1802. Each player is going to get 6 new cards. And these show up there. Then they have to make discard attempts. So like the US is going to have 9 cards. They have to get rid of 1. The Tripolitanians, same thing. The US has to discard 1. They're going to get rid of the assault on Tripoli. They can't play it until the fall of 1805 or later. And it doesn't say anything. It says victory or death, right? It doesn't say anything about, hey, the game's over if you play this and you didn't make it. The conditions of moving Hamet's army into Tripoli, which is one of the options for this, the other is just send the Marines in, are such that, yeah, you could lose the game by doing that. But in 1805, if you play that fall of 1805, a frigate could conceivably be available in 1806 normally that gets damaged, but there's special rules on that card that indicate that, no, it doesn't go there. This should be in the spring turn. I got to figure out which card the Tripolitanians get rid of. Tripolitanians get rid of a Moroccan Corsairs raid. They don't have a Morocco declares war card, so that's not working out very well for them. The last time I played, those were aligning really nicely. The Tripolitanians were getting their allies and their ally raid cards, and that was putting a lot of taxation on the U.S. This one feels like the U.S. are getting a much better hand of cards. They've got a whole bunch of frigates out there available. It feels like they've gotten a better draw right off the bat than the Tripolitanians did. And there's certainly a luck factor in this. There's no question of that, which is one reason why the tournament play makes sense, because you might want to play like, let's play 3 on each side and see who gets the best score or whatever. And that would probably take you most of a day. It's kind of a tricky position for the U.S. at this point. I could sail in and shoot up the Tripolitanian Corsairs. My choices there, though, would be to spend the Thomas Jefferson 6-point card, or 8-point, 8-point card, which maybe I want to save for later in the game, because I cannot win the game off of that. Even if I wipe everything out in Tripoli eventually, I still have to get that 1805 period, essentially, to be able to reach there. So, I could throw a bunch of, I have some maneuver cards that allow me to ship 4 of my squadrons up there. That's probably my best move. I have a fair amount of movement available. So I'm going to play that. The other option is the Constantinople tribute, which would take 2 of my bucks back. But I'd rather limit the damage than than try to buy it off before it's limited. So now let's look at this. Well, Storms looks incredibly appealing at this point. I've got this available. Tripoli attacks is a horrible idea. Bringing Algeria into the war might be useful, but I think I'd rather hit the Storms first at this point, because everything's in one place. So now I roll 1 die for each American frigate, and there are 6 out there. 6s do something bad to them. So I got 1 sunk. I'm going to record that by putting it up here. I got 4 of them, I win the game. And this card can be played multiple times. It gets us to the summer. Now what? I'll get this played, get the 2 gold out of the way. I don't have a whole hell of a lot to do right now. I mean, other than launching the attack. That puts me back here, and I think what we want is the Algiers War at this point. To make life a little harder on the US side. This one goes away. Put it in the right pile over there. You don't get to see that. It's my mess. I moved this up. And now, well, we don't want that happening. So much as it kind of costs us our movement, we do a show of force. That'll send 3 frigates into here and get rid of the war effort. No, it's not damaged. Okay. And again, that can be done multiple times. Well, that just made my Algerian Corsairs less useful. There's less fleet out there. I could launch an attack at this point. I'm still waiting for the modifier card here, and I wish they mentioned on the card that there is something that modifies it. Move an American frigate. Frigate sunk, frigate captured. I mean, I'm tempted to just play it because it would be useful right now. Yeah. Because it's probably in my next deck, right? Okay, so I roll 1 die on a 5 or a 6. I get a real bonus there. And it's a 6. This is great. So I sink a US frigate and get an Algerian or a Tripolitanian frigate there. This card is gone for the game. But that's a pretty big effect. And now I've got kind of like a numerical superiority out there outside Tripoli, which, if I have the attack card, which I do, starts to look really appealing. I have a few choices. I still have a 4-point movement card. I hate using one of them when I'm not getting 4 movement out of it. Although I could actually launch an attack on Tripoli and try to shoot it up. First thing I'm going to do is on a 1, I'm just going to build a gunboat instead. I'm trying to make my decisions here. Okay, I did not get a 1. Now, odd, I'm going to launch an attack. Even, I'm just going to patrol Tripoli. Even, okay. Now, if I'm only going to patrol Tripoli, maybe I want to hold this card. I'll throw this card. Because I'm moving 2 out of 3. I'd like to keep that 4 naval movement for someplace where I can use those ships to kill something. Of course, 4 frigates moving at once gets them all into Malta if they launch an attack. But, well, that changed the numbers on me. I don't know if I want to launch the attack now. I'd be looking at 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 dice. I need to sink 2 frigates. 8 dice isn't going to sink 2 frigates, probably. Jeez. Or I can start going for more coins. I think I'll go for the coins. I'll play the Algerian raid. I'm launching a raid. The US is going to intercept. And we are going to use Lieutenant Seward in pursuit. That means 3 dice instead of 2 for each US ship. And that means 9 US dice. That's 8, make it 9. And 4 Swedish dice. That's going to hurt more than it should. Okay, we got 2 hits. This is gone. But now we had one. Merchant ship played. The raid has to be successful, so we don't play it yet, I guess. But we have 4 ships. Yeah. And if we get a 5 or a 6, we'll play that card in addition. We got 1 hit, so we get 1 coin, and we'll play this card to get us an additional Corsair. Over there, that's the end of the year. So we record another year's fun. Okay, these more fast-paced CDGs, where you're able to make these quick decisions, and also buckets of dice games, are a little harder to video. Yeah, they'd be easier if I had a tripod set up, but we can't play that way. Although it might actually make sense in these. I'd have to wear pants or something. No, I've got pants on. But yeah, it's just a little bit harder to make these quick decisions on camera one after another. I think I was having more fun playing this without the camera, and that's usually the case. Okay, so for the start of this year, we're in 1803. That's a normal year. Each side's going to draw 6. That's going to be a discard for the US and for Tripoli again. US, they have a number of cards that are no problem discarding. This one I can discard. This is no harm. There are no Tripolitanian Corsairs, so I'll just get rid of that one. But I have some others that I'm a little iffier on discarding. Things like Send in the Marines. Decatur's fine. And the Peace Treaty. This is one of my victory point cards, which could be very helpful to play earlier on. But chances are I want to get them reshuffled into the deck rather than hold them in my hand forever, where they no longer, where I'm unable to play them once the deck gets reshuffled. Because I don't want to get rid of them at that point. They must be in my hand. And here's the thing. If I look at the start of the year, 1805 is when the deck gets reshuffled. So I want them back in the deck by then. So I don't particularly want to be holding on to these. They could cause me problems if I do. The other option, and maybe if I had picked it up in 1804, I would hold it through 1805 with the thought that, in fall of 1805, maybe I will be playing, that card. But you really kind of have to set up for it. And this thing is soon. This thing is next year, so I want to set up for that and try to get into Dern. Of course, the danger with that is more frigates. All right, let's take a look at the Tripolitanians. On their side, they only had 1 card they would think about getting rid of, which is good that they only had 1 to get rid of. All right, we'll start another year, but I like to put a little break in each time. This opens things up with another early deployment, dropping another frigate into Gibraltar for this turn. Tripoli gets the Sweden card. This is cool. It's 1803 or later, so we can get this out. We get 2 gold coins, and we get rid of the Swedes. And I'll just put them there. They're out of the game essentially, though. As is this card. Drops the treaty card. Build themselves another gunboat. with the number of U.S. frigates we've killed, I'm going to go with the Tripoli attacks. I could keep building gunboats or Corsairs as they were, but I want to get a launch out before all these frigates come into play and it starts getting too hard. So we're going to just sail out there, and I got to look for combat cards. The U.S. has handfuls of combat cards. None of them apply here. So let's see what we're going to have here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dice coming out. Okay. That got me no hits. That's not too good. And 6 for the U.S. You know, my last game, we were focusing more on the coins, but this time it felt like we had a shot maybe to kill a frigate this time and put the U.S. in a lot of trouble. They get 1 hit. I am going to take that on the frigate and push the frigate out, because unless I'm going to sail out and attack, it doesn't really do me a lot of good. It does give me some defense in Tripoli, but I have the Tripoli guns available, so I feel like I'm kind of taking a pass. This is something that'll just rebuild itself soon enough. Iffy on doing this with the US, but I am going to launch 4 ships into Tripoli. The reason is to cut these down and really weaken their position there. And I also get my 2 gunboats in there, which will help a lot. On top of that, I got Preble's Boys Take Aim, which will give me an extra die on each frigate when coming in here, and I'm going to play that. However, we want to kill frigates, and so we're going to throw this thing into play, the guns of Tripoli. They're one use. I don't have an interception. We don't want to do that. Okay, so for the U.S., with the Preble's Boys, we got 3, 6, 9, 12. And then 2 gunboats. And we just want to wipe out the capacity for Tripoli to gain coins. But this is a risk going in the wrong direction. I feel like I'm playing my last game for the U.S. here rather than this one. Okay, we got 3 hits though. That's pretty decent. And then on the other side, what do we got coming? We have 12 dice for this. So that's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and another 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's a whole bunch. Yeah. We're getting beyond what I can hold in a hand. In 2 hands, I can manage the whole pile. Loose die. And we got a lot of hits. And that's not good for the U.S. Okay, 2, 3, 4 hits. This is fairly late in the year. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 of the hits on frigates, 1 hit on a gunboat. All these frigates go back here. They'll come back. That's the nice part about this. And these guys go up to Malta. I've still got some defenses in the way. And really, did the U.S. lose anything? Well, we'll see. We might see a coin attack, but there's only 2 ships here, so it's kind of less valuable than you would think. And we are going into the Tripolitanians, but I got to get rid of these cards and think. Just build myself another Corsair. That pushes me here. What's up with the U.S.? Well, the U.S. wants to get here before spring of 1804. They want to get to Alexandria. So I'm going to want to do naval movement, but it doesn't have to be too impressive because I don't have much left. These are all kind of crappy. This one, maybe I can use. This one, more likely, send in the Marines. This is really just for the Tripoli assault, which I'm not ready to do just yet. So I'm going to move up to 2 frigates. It's just going to be 1. That puts me to the end of the line here. And here things are kind of interesting. I could launch an attack or drop some troops through the Benghazi troops. They're not that important. Instead, I'm going to declare war with Morocco. Hope that I get a Morocco card before something else happens. Push them there. That's the end of the year. This is the start of 1804, so it's just a normal year. Everybody gets 6 cards, and so they're both going to have to discard 1. Discard choices here, you know, Marine sharpshooters, sure, I may want them soon, but maybe not, you know. They're really most useful if I'm making the assault on Tripoli with all the units, and holding on to a bunch of cards is not a great idea. It's better to throw them into the deck and keep ones that you think you're going to use. At least that's my feeling. For the Tripoli player, it's a lot easier. The Uncharted Waters, this is the modifier to the Philadelphia runs aground. I got the best result I could off of that. So no biggie. And there go the ships. And we're ready on this next turn. 1804, there's tons of things I want to do as the U.S. First of all, I've got the army. I want to create that. Build that here, start moving it, because once it takes Dern, if I can get rid of the Tripolitanian frigate, I think the surrender card works. Of course, I don't have that all set up right now in hand. That's okay. There's the question of the frigate. Do I want to, well, I got to get rid of Tangier, the Morocco guys. I have a card that can let me do that, and I can trade some money for it. I have this, which could grab me any single card I want and play it immediately, which might be of great value. And this is one place where I don't like the tournament rules, because I can't inspect my own deck and see, hey, what are my cards? So you absolutely have to have everything memorized to be able to play at that level. But what I do have is a couple of the, I have the Intrepid and Burn the Philadelphia, either of which could get rid of that frigate. But, and I have Stephen Decatur, which can influence the die rolls for them, for either one. Well, the problem with these is, unless I'm set up to win the game, I don't really want to do them. Don't think I want to do Bainbridge. I only have 4 turns. So 1, 2, let's call it those 2. Burn the frigate. Pull the victory card. 3, build the army. I don't get myself here. I don't get the tribute card. I can't do it this turn. That's problematic. I'm going to leave the victory card in here. I don't like that because there's this thing that can get in my way, but I don't think I'm in good shape for forcing a victory in this direction anyway. I'm not going to be in a land battle anytime real soon. So my feeling is that I might want to move a bunch of ships in here to prevent the gold from moving. Or I might want to pay the tribute and get rid of Morocco before that turns into a bubble-up problem. Or I might want to build my army. Building my army doesn't really help me. I'm going to go with the tribute paid. So I move a frigate to here. I get rid of these, but I do have to pay 2 gold. And now things are looking a little ugly now. And Tripoli is going to bring Tunisia into the war. Not really in the war yet, but until they kind of do something. So, you know, squish one bug, see another. So one of the things that I kind of like about this game, a lot of the kind of hyper reduced CDGs that I've seen. 13 Days comes to mind, another one called Cold War that I played a long time ago. It feels like you're always doing something like this. Oh, look, they squished something, now I do this, and I just basically do the opposite. I open up a new problem that they have to close down and whatever. Well, the capability to close this down is different. In this case, one event card got me to kill that. I don't necessarily have that capability again. The next thing I could do is do a big naval movement to slap that. That starts eating up my resources. How bad is this out here? Well, this card can allow a raid from both ports, which could transfer a decent amount of gold into the Tripoli side. So I kind of have to do something about this, but what do I do? And that's where that's where the tricky decisions start coming. But the counterplays in this aren't always forced. They aren't always the same. So in too many of the stripped down CDGs, I like to call them, and I consider this to be close to one, you end up playing a card, doing something, and the opposing player plays a card with the same points and undoes whatever you do. It's sort of a Twilight Struggle type of game where you're just constantly balancing off the points, but the events, if they're there, they're not in Cold War. Don't have that big an influence. On this, there's not that kind of simple reactions. The reactions sometimes require that you roll dice or that you have a specific card to be able to handle something or whatever. So you'd be rolling dice if you launch an attack in there, plus expending an important card. In the case of the other one, you're playing a particular event while you lucked out in having that, just like they had that event that triggered something. You just happened to align. But the fact that it's not this sort of symmetrical, oh, well, you just set yourself up so you're close to winning, this is what I must do, and, I'm almost assured to be able to prevent you. I don't like the way those play out. This one reminds me a little bit more of, maybe a little bit more linear, but it reminds me a little bit of Fort Sumter by Mark Herman, and in that it's still pretty quick playing and small, but it's giving you a little bit more strategic option than something like 13 Days did, at least in my experience of the different games. All right, so what do the Americans want to do about this? Well, we got to do something. I think our action here will be a naval movement, which means 4 frigates get to move. We'll do that because, well, I don't know, but it gives me more of the a little bit more here where they're more likely to get out. What does that put on Tripoli? I gotta think. As long as the U.S. hasn't built its army yet, I can still keep playing an attritional type game with their ships. So I'm going to push a ship back to Malta for this turn. Puts it back on the U.S. This is going to take its chances with the coins and drop this. By the way, this was incredibly powerful in my last game. In this game, there aren't that many frigates sitting around doing nothing. These 2 losses are a big deal to be able to launch an attack using the Jefferson card. But in this case, what do I get? I get a Marine and 5 Arab infantry in Alexandria. Unfortunately, I did not draw the card to march to Dern. I'm not sure that I want to. Like, I could pull it out in my winter turn and make that attack, but I'm not sure I want to do that yet. It would give me the Bainbridge card back in the deck, though, which is a reason maybe to do it. Okay. On to Tripoli. Oh, gosh. I think it's time play my big Yusuf card so that I can launch both of these. I'm going to try. If I get really lucky, I get to steal enough gold that I really put the US on the ropes. They're already, kind of hammered in terms of ships, and now I'm going to try to make the coin thing an issue. I have Happy Hunting and the Signal Books Overboard cards, both of which I can play to do a lot of good. Unfortunately, neither of these really helps me. Now, the other option would be the immediate counter, the troops to Dern. You know what? I'm not sure which way I want to go. Odd, I'm going to go with what I wanted to, the Guarani, but I may be using information, so on even, I'm going to throw those extra troops into play. We get an even, so I'll do that instead, if I can find it. And that gets me 2 Tripolitanian infantry in Dern, and that helps defend this. That goes here, we're there, and it's up to the US to make their next choice. Key in terms of victory at this point is probably either the peace treaty card for the US here, which means next turn I could play this if I get lucky, or if I pulled it now, but Tunis has Corsairs in it. I have to clear them out. Dern has not been captured. I have to clear that out. And there's Tripolitanian frigate. I'd have to clear that out. So that's looking kind of iffy for this turn. If I look at the other one, Assault on Tripoli, I have to wait until the fall of next turn. I can move all my frigates and gunboats to Tripoli. Hamet's army can come from Benghazi, and I would need to send in the Marines. Things are going to have to fall pretty well for me to get that. I think my best move is to play Bainbridge and pull and just hope good things happen. Pull a show of force. I'm allowed to immediately play that or put it in my hand. I will immediately play it. That lets me drop 3 frigates. Let's take 2 of them here and 1 from here because the patrol one doesn't matter. And that clears these out. I'll leave the patrol here just in case something weird happens. I don't know what's up with those. They stay there. Return all the Corsairs to the sun. Yeah. I don't think they can show up again. I think there's just 1 card that brings each one in. And that puts it back on our buddies. Now, they no longer have that good attack in place that involves throwing Tunis into play. Constantinople doesn't help. I could throw some additional troops into Tripoli. See, it was the Happy Hunting that I was excited about. Throwing troops into Tripoli would help me towards not losing. Because the Tripoli assault is kind of dependent on that. So we drop those in, and that puts us to 1805. 1805 means a reshuffle and 6 cards to each player. Now, you can see we're going to have a lot of discards at this point. And this is, something that eventually happens. The hands get kind of overloaded and you have to throw out garbage. There's a fair amount of garbage in each deck, though, at this point as well. They got a lot luckier with the cards that they drew. Uncharted Waters, hey, I did the Philadelphia card already. It's just a garbage card. Moroccan Corsairs raid, again, I looked, all 3 of my nations have already fired off. That's something both sides should remember. Let me make sure, because I think I screwed up with that, and I should have that knowledge. I kept a show of force. I don't want that. I want this instead. Okay, but I had to throw out Corsairs confiscated. That's unimportant because of Gibraltar. But I had to throw out a 4-point naval move, and I don't have another big naval move because I got too many of my good cards all at once. Yes, I could ditch one and hope the Bainbridge card comes up when I need it, but that won't come up this year, and I can win the game this year if things work right. So I'm going to move forward with what I have here. And now, what is my goal? Well, there's a couple ways I can try to win this. I've got the treaty option, which means I have to get to Dern. I have a Benghazi card, which will help get me to Tripoli. But I do not have the card that gets me to Dern. So actually, this treaty card I'm just holding because I can't afford to throw it away. That means maybe I want to assault Tripoli. That has to happen by fall. I would need to send in the Marines. I do not have them. That means the Marine sharpshooters are gone. So I'm left with not a lot of options. I had a really crappy deck of cards as far as I'm concerned. So I think, and this is part of my military stuff, I think what I want to do is either burn the Philadelphia or launch the Intrepid. The Philadelphia is a better card. I'm going to throw Decatur in with that, and I get to roll a single die, but actually I get to roll 2 dice and pick the best one. I get a 5, I get to sink the Tripolitanian frigate. And that is indeed the Philadelphia, if I recall correctly, which is pretty super good. And now we go to Tripoli. But I feel like the U.S. is kind of in a position where they're going to have trouble finding victory right now. Hard choices with Tripoli. I'm going to throw some more troops in Tripolitania. That strengthens the position. Now here's something that I find kind of weird in the game. There's a number of cards that don't match the historical situation. That's fine. I'm totally in favor of that. They allow you to march into Benghazi and Tripoli, for example. But one of them is Constantinople sends aid. This card is the game changer. As soon as Dern is taken, which is required to get the peace treaty that historically happened, this can be played, on the next Tripolitanian turn. And it gives them a frigate and 2 Corsairs in Tripoli, along with 2 infantry. That's pretty damn potent. You can't have the peace treaty if there's a frigate there. It makes it harder to make the assault on Tripoli. It makes it impossible unless you have someone who is incapable of, playing to the best of their ability to create the historical situation. That's my biggest gripe to the game, is this particular card is an almost guaranteed stopper for the U.S. The U.S. can't win if you play this. Well, you can stop the U.S. from winning by playing this. They have to now do something else. And historically, this is not what was followed. So that kind of disturbs me because it means that no game will ever play out historically accurately if the Tripolitanian player is playing well. And that is, to me, it's like, there's no way that a game should have an almost assured play under the situations of the historical situation. This should not be a guaranteed card by any means. For play balance, maybe it's necessary. Maybe there's no way the Tripolitanians could hold off the U.S. The last time I played, it came to a really close run thing, even though this was played. And the U.S. still won. They won with 1 coin. And a turn that went by where there was a pirate raid that did not generate any coins with 5 Corsairs or something going out. But yeah, as long as this card exists, and is a guaranteed available card, and there's nothing that can stop it, I do not see how you could ever see the historical results happen, because the Tripolitanian player will play this to delay the U.S. at least a turn. You know, they have to do something about that frigate then. Oh, and again, it's ahistorical. So I find that highly disturbing. US, though, their hand of cards is problematic in this game. I don't think they can win because of what they drew here. So the treaty, I can't play that until I've taken Dern, and I don't have the card that lets me do that. The assault on Tripoli, I can't play that without the Marines. Now, maybe I should have thrown something different there, but the Marine sharpshooters, well, they're a waste if I don't have the Marines, but let's put them there. The General Eaton attacks Benghazi. You know, I'm going to need the Tripoli assault. I could use Marine sharpshooters for that, but there's a lot of Tripoli troops right now. I don't know if I can win that way. Lieutenant O'Bannon leads the charge. That would go in really for an attack on Tripoli. The launch of the Intrepid, that's my way to get rid of the frigate that shows up from there. So I think I have to go for the peace treaty victory, which to me means, what do I get rid of? I will get rid of the attack on Benghazi. To do what? Yeah, I wish let's see. Yeah, I get frigates to bombard if I get that. I'm gonna, Jesus. I'm gonna play that to move 2 frigates to Dern to bombard it. Get rid of some of their firepower there, just so that I have an almost assured chance of getting in there. And I miss. And this was not wasted, or not killed from the game. That puts me back here. How do I get a victory? I probably can't get coins. I only have 3 ships. I'd have to do a couple of attacks to succeed with coins. Of course, I could force the U.S. to drop a card. That would improve my chances. This is for a land battle. Troops to Benghazi. I don't know that he threw this out, so I don't know that I want to play that there. Tripoli attacks. That's pretty crappy right now. Tunisian Corsairs raid. I can discard that. And remember, these are hidden discards if you're playing with the more advanced rolls. I'm going to just build up my gunboats. When I launch this port attack, I could bring a gunboat with me. Let me roll a die for the gunboat too, just in case, yeah. And then these were all back in Malta. I forgot about that. Kind of running out of options here. This is probably better than that. I need the Intrepid. I may not be able to do the assault on Tripoli at this point. I think I'm going to discard that. And again, it's a big difference whether this is available to the enemy to see or not, because this significantly limits my chances of understanding what's going on. I'll leave those there. They're not doing any harm, and I'll keep pounding Dern. I get 5 dice. Got 1 hit. Let me go home again. And over here, what are we doing? Well, we wish we could get things in Dern. Tripoli attacks looks pretty damn iffy, although that is, you know, maybe my easiest way to victory. I got these stupid Algerian Corsairs. I'll build another gunboat and work my way up towards maybe getting a gold victory, although I think that's pretty unlikely. I can't give up many of the cards in my hand. I'm going to play Thomas Jefferson. And I'm going to try to wipe out his gunboats. He does not have the Tripoli fortress, which I think was a discard card. So, what do we get? Well, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 13 dice. No hits. Amazing. And on the other side of this, it's 5 dice. No hits there either. And the entire fleet goes back to Malta. Well, that didn't do much. But now the way's open. Hey, it's time for a raid then. So I have Happy Hunting to play for the raid. There's not going to be an interception roll. I don't know. This could win me the game. That's the problem. Like if there's a blockade out there, being able to hit a couple of frigates, but that's going to be pretty damn unlikely. So I'm going to discard the Tripoli attacks to allow me to attack, and I'm going to play Happy Hunting to get me 3 extra dice, and I get 5, 6, 7, 8, and these all hit on 5s and 6s to get me coins. I could win the game here on a very lucky roll. This is not a tremendous roll, but not a bad one. When we go home, this card is gone. We'll be able to score that sucker again. And that's the end of this year. On the last year, all the remaining cards come back into play, but you got to discard again. It shouldn't be a problem now. All the garbage should be in everybody's hands now. I had to discard 1 card, which was very easily found. The US had to discard a whole pile of stuff because remember, I had too many cards that were too good, and I had to eat up all of my core cards, whereas he's still got 2 of them sitting there. Okay, so what's the US plan? Well, the US plan is we got to take turn. To do that, we're going to recruit Bedouins and get 2 additional Arab infantry. That'll improve my chances. Do that again. For us, what do we have? Well, wow, we have a bunch of shit. Didn't I just discard these? Apparently not. This doesn't help me. This doesn't help me. Troops to Dern. Well, that sounds useful. In delaying the game, but maybe the best thing would be to go for a lucky shot with the Raiders. I've got 5 Raiders. 3 5s or 6s out of 5 Raiders would win me the game. Okay. Offensive or defensive? Odd even. Defensive. Okay. We send the troops to Dern. That'll buy me some more time. Pushes it here. Okay. Well. See, we had this. This was our secondary option, is do we want to grab a couple of gold? which would have made things safer. I should have thought about that. But we're on a tight timeline here. So General Eaton will attack Dern. That pulls my force in. Up to 3 American frigates can go to the harbor to help. And I will be using O'Bannon and the Marine sharpshooters. And here's where you actually need the special dice to back that up. Anything for him for military? Well, he's got mercenaries desert. Roll 1 die for each Arab infantry. Each 6 takes an Arab infantry unit and returns it to the supply. So 3, 6, 7 dice. None of them actually deserted. Right then. Okay. Over here, we did the attack. We have O'Bannon. Let's do these dice first. So, one of the Marine units rolls 3 dice instead of 1, and they will hit on 5s and 6s. These guys, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, only hit on 6s. And I got the ships first. 2, 4, 5, 6. Bombardment. Probably should have done this first. Bombardment hits 1. They go home. Whoa, we hit big. Okay. 3 hits. And is that for every round of combat? During each round of combat. Each round of combat. Okay, so the US is just potent here. And I did not roll. I have four dice shooting back, which killed 2 of these. Okay. But because this is land combat, we keep going. So the ships are gone. That's not a big deal. But we still have 3 bonus dice for them. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here. Okay, we got a hit. So we killed him. And he gets to swing back. And Dern has fallen. This is a big deal. This opens the triggering for victory. However, we don't want victory to happen. So what do? Unless we could win the game ourselves by like a good Tripoli roll. And we might take that chance. And that would be the one, that would be a reason not to do this, right? Well, 3 hits on 5 or 6, but I don't have enough there to make that make sense. So I'm going to play this because Dern just fell. And I get a frigate and 2 Corsairs. And 2 infantry. And that makes this go away. Now we're in fall. Well, we got to do something about that frigate. What can we do? I only got one thing. I mean, honestly, I could send my fleet in. I don't have the Tripoli attacks card, though. So we'll launch the Intrepid. We don't have a bonus on the Intrepid, so we just roll a die. We get a 4. A Corsair is sunk. Not good enough. On our side, what do we have? Throw troops in. We're going to do a raid. You got anything to do about that? Got nothing in the way. Got a chance of winning here. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The US could have prevented this by putting, part of their fleet blockading Tripoli, and then we're probably okay. Both sides want to win, though. So that is 2 hits. There goes the monies. And... nope. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. This would have allowed me to discard a card, but only if I'm being intercepted. So that pushes it to here. Constantinople demands tribute. There's really nothing I can do. I can't play the peace treaty because there's a frigate here. Bainbridge could take a shot, but this is the last turn of the game. I have to play the peace treaty for this, so I just take $2 back. That puts it back on Tripoli, and it doesn't really matter what they play. They're going to be doing another raid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Could still win. And they do. They get 3 gold. They won. The first time I played, it ended in the spring with a U.S. victory on an assault on Tripoli. Again, I do see some possibility for not playing the Constantinople provides aid card. So I'm a little bit less worried about, hey, how fair, how reasonable is it that, like, this card can stop history from happening? It's an ahistorical card. It doesn't guarantee Tripoli the win by any means. Or it doesn't guarantee, more importantly, preventing the U.S. win. What it does is, in this case, it made sense not to play, or it made sense to play it because Tripoli didn't have a very high chance of winning without the extra materials that they got from it. No, it made sense to play it. But in some cases, Tripoli might have a lot of Corsairs on it and the availability to make those raids that could push things over the edge. The U.S. was in trouble right from the beginning in this particular version of the game, and don't take that as normal. The fact that they had 2 frigates killed early, that put them in a really bad position. And some of that might be my gameplay. Some of that may just be the luck of the draw. I felt like the U.S. had kind of crappy cards to begin with. Whatever you want to take it as. Right then. So up it goes.